Hey, and welcome to the Crew Podcast. We are the hottest podcast rocking right now. We are currently looking for 6 amazing hosts to join our family for season 2 that will kick off February the 1st, 2024. If you're looking for an opportunity to allow your voice, your perspective, and your brand to be heard around the world and seen around the world, then join the Crew Podcast.
Aspiring Authors Magazine is a founding sponsor for Da Crew Podcast. Get featured inside the magazine and allow your voice to be heard around the world.
Aspiring Authors Magazine is an international magazine founded in May of 2020 by Queen Angela. Get featured.
Hey, y'all, and welcome. I know it's a late show tonight, but of course, y'all know I always got to show up. I scheduled the individual, so I want to make sure that he get the opportunity to come on and share. Tonight, y'all, we have presidential hopeful for 2024, Mr. Michael Landon. He's going to come on. He's going to share a little bit about his campaign and why he's running for president of, yes, the United States of America, y'all. He is running for presidential candidate for 2024. I'm going to allow him to come up and introduce himself. Welcome, Michael. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. Good evening, Angela. I really appreciate you allowing me to be on your show with you and your followers. Just can't wait to dive into it.
So, I know you ran for presidential candidate in 2020. What got you on this track? What made you think that this was something that you wanted to do? I mean, being the president of the United States is a big title, and what made you want to do that and to carry on all those responsibilities?
Well, I all my life I've been trying to figure out my calling, and I know speaking was my calling, and being a leader, natural born leader. I just didn't know what field to really work that mantra in. But at the Republican National Convention here in Cleveland for Trump, I was out there, and I wasn't out there for Trump. I was really out there for the people because they said it was going to start a civil war here in Cleveland. The civil war was going to start here in Cleveland, throughout America. And I started my motivational speaking career at that time, still trying to figure out, from doing comedy, from doing becoming an actor or getting into being a preacher. When I did my motivational speaking career at the convention, and I was just telling about my family history and being a peacemaker, a lot of people who nominated Donald Trump, they said, "Hey, why not run for president? You have the mantra, the character, to know how to bring people together, especially with your black and white family. So, and we need new leaders in America." So I figured with my calling and then doing this, it kind of feels right. And after I decided and I ran for 2020, an unbelievable thing happened where my life was in danger from a certain individual that's in trouble right now that you may know of, former president. And I've been working tirelessly for almost 5 years to validate what happened during the 2020 election, why I'm running, who I am, and why I'll be the best fit for the 2024 presidential election. So overall, it just seemed like I was called to it, and I answered that call.
So what are some of your pressing issues? What are some things that you would like to address as the president of the United States?
Well, there are so many. I'm gonna start domestically. Number one, we're so divided on so much on party ideologies and color, and we're too afraid to have somebody to speak in the middle, to bring us in the middle, to talk out our problems. Because if we can't handle the most dire issues that cause our division in the first place, then we can't solve none of the problems of the 21st century. Number one would be race relations here in America, to realize that we're all one, that we're all equal under the eyes of justice and the law. And we're lacking that type of leader because the leadership that we currently have now is pretty much outside the times. We have a fight where the current older generation is fighting to keep on, to hold on to power, and neglecting that the younger generation should take over. So race will be a number one factor. You talk about that, it can be like a domino effect on other issues that we as Americans need to discuss. And that would be the best way to move forward on trying to solve all the other issues. When it comes to healthcare, I believe that affordable healthcare is not just a right, but it's a solemn I don't say birthright, but we should have affordable health care and not worry about the system making money off of us if we live or die. But we got to have clarity, and we're lacking that. And but race would be the main thing. But on a worldwide scale, we're so much stuck on past arguments, 40, 50 years ago, and people are still living in the past. But I think that with global warming is a real threat to humanity. So we can argue about what happened 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago and go to war over it and kill countless others of individuals. But I think coming together on the climate crisis, finding new avenues of respect and repairing failed relationships between us and other countries, I think that'll be a new start for us to move forward. Not a new world order, but a new world in order to solve our problems. So there's so many different things, but you got to do it A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. If you start off at T, you're never going to get the alphabetic statements right on how to, say A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. You just got to do everything line by line in order for things to work out.
It seemed like there are a lot of issues, like you stated. I know a lot of the candidates are running on the border and border control. That's a lot of their issues, trying to keep immigrants out. What's your stand on that and the wall and building that wall and keeping immigrants out?
Well, when I hear about this, it just behooves the mind that we are a nation of immigrants. I think the stature of how they talk about immigrants like they're the problem, they're bringing diseases and drugs and crime and all this other stuff, and it's not that at all. I don't believe a wall will work because we already seen countless of times that tunnels are being made underneath. And the wall that we currently see now, thanks to President Trump, which the Mexicans paid for it, right? Which we did actually. They found ways to climb that wall, so they're still getting through. And the truth of the matter is, I mean, this is not a one party like the Democrats had fought about the immigration policies that's failing. It's really a two-party problem. It's really all of America's problem. Back in the 60s and 70s, we, or the CIA actually, helped kind of cause the mess that we're having down in Central and South America. And that's why the influx of people are coming here. So I have a plan overall. It's a three-pronged plan to handle our immigration situation. First of all, we got to be welcoming again to all immigrants that want to come to America and help rebuild this country. That's how back in World War II, the interstate and whatnot, we had to have immigrants here, especially building New York and Chicago, especially way before then. Immigrants built this country. So the three-pronged attack, the three-pronged plan that I have, number one, is that we got to have a plan when these immigrants come here, not just to be sitting around, especially homelessness and in the streets and whatnot, but have a plan to put them directly to work. Make sure they do the jobs that Americans will not do. But to have a coordination with the states of the South, governors and whatnot, for an economic plan for these states to have workers. Number two, to work with for our government to work with local governments down in Central and South America to quell the violence and crime from drug crimes and drug lords and whatnot, and to bring some stability back to those nations. So those people who are here, I mean, trust and believe, they come here, they don't want to leave their homes. And I bet you they're homesick right now. But we give them an avenue and an atmosphere of control, of peace, and that would be the best way for them to go back home eventually. The third thing that we need to do is that when it comes to human trafficking and drugs, and I've been thinking about this in depth. Now, the drugs are coming into the country from Central and South America because of the drug lords. Besides also fighting with them, we have to find some way to come up with some kind of plan to help quell. Well, you can't help quell because they sell cocaine and stuff. So how can you do that? That's going to be another thing. I have to talk with some people who are a lot more smarter than me on that. But the first two, yes, those are solid in order to quell the influx of migrants to come here. But we got to have a plan once they're here. They just can't be draining on our systems because, like I said, what happened in New York, right, during the summer, when the governor of Florida and the governor of Texas was sending all those migrants up north, and they didn't have a plan. They just started opening up areas to handle the influx of people that coming from overseas. Now, here's the thing that I don't understand. Now, before those people got there were already tens of thousands of homeless people in New York City. They didn't open up nothing for those people. You know what I'm saying? So I do want to have a care for the people, for our people as well first, before others. But we should be able to, the United States of America should be able to handle any and everything at the same time. So we got to realize that it's our fault and to fix it. And as president, that's what I'm gonna do. But to alienate, to mistreat people that are not from here, that won't be no longer tolerated. But the sanctuary cities where people are sleeping outside, stuff like that, we should have had a plan, years ago. But both sides have been playing and using the immigration debate for votes, mostly, and still kicking the can down the road. No more kicking the can down the road with Landon for president.
So, what's your take on education and Black history? No, they're taking a lot of the Black history stuff out of the schools, and then they're telling us that it is traumatizing the Caucasian kids. Well, what is your stand on that?
Well, I believe education is freedom. I think that it is past time that America must open up to talk about the past wounds and past misinjustices on African Americans. And when I hear certain people like Ron DeSantis and a few other people taking away African American studies out of schools because it says it's going to hurt hurt our children, the white children, to make them think that they're bad. All white people, let's just say this, all white people are not the same. Because if they were, we wouldn't have a civil war to fight for the freedom of slaves. So to learn about our history is only first three things. Number one is to give us the freedom and the knowledge to make sure that we don't repeat the same mistakes. Number two, to also not to point the blame because of a color fraction of a certain individuals did another bad thing to another group of individuals doesn't mean the whole race is to blame. We need to teach that. We need to teach truth, love, and understanding. And for the people who want to make that number three, the people who want to make that excuse, wants to keep that the dark part of history, to bring the dark part of American history back to life, because they believe, and I ain't talking about all white people, but they believe they're superior, and they've been doing this. They've been knocking his education out of the white communities as well, not knowing of what the plights of what African Americans have gone through. And then when they hear us, this and that, they think that we're just ungrateful, and we try to take their stuff. No, it's not like that at all. That we have all been lied to. We've all been played because of the lack of education in America. And as president, what I would do is to re-strengthen our educational system here in America to make sure our kids get all the education they need about everything that happened in this country, everything. But we're not here to point blame and to make people feel bad. And you talk about making people feel bad. Imagine how we feel 400 years ancestries about our slave, the mothers and fathers of our slave descendants before, what they experienced, and their education. We weren't educated. They was trying to make us forget our history from Africa, kings and queens, and still some of our African American brothers and sisters still not knowing about the plights, don't know about our history. But we're going to change it.
What are your thoughts of what is it? Giving us our 40 mules and our acres.
You mean like reparations and all that?
Our reparations. Out in California, they're working on reparations. What is your idea and your take on that? And maybe doing it across the United States? Because if you look at it, we all were brought here from a foreign land. A lot was taken from us. Some of us was brought here. Some of us was already here. Some of us didn't come from Africa.
Right.
They make all of us to come from Africa, but some of us didn't come from Africa. And everybody have been paid something and given something in this world. You talk about they gave the Indians the casinos. They gave the Jews got something. A lot of people have gotten something, but they've yet to give us anything for what we have endured. But we are the ones that they have wanted to continually forgive and forget. They want us to forget that you enslaved us, you beat us, you raped us, you did all this stuff to us. You want to take it out the books. You don't want to talk about it. And then when you do talk about it, it's always in your likeness. It's always where you look good and we look bad. How can we begin to heal that and to hold people accountable?
Well, the one thing, like I said, education is number one, but you got to have people that is willing to tell the truth, to be open and honest about it, to be caring, to show that we're not trying to blame everybody, but just the ones that maybe are Caucasian that still believes that they were a master race and dragging the rest of the white race down with them. I just think that, for example, with my family, my Langdon family, I just reached out to them. I didn't know if I was kin to them or not, and they supported Trump, and some are in the Ku Klux Klan and whatnot. But after a decade, something kind of clicked where it's not about the politics, it's not about the color, it's about what connects all of us. And we just need someone to tap into that. And I believe I have that capability of just reaching past color, reaching past hatred and fear and lies that have been told throughout our history. This is the time for Americans to heal, because the status quo of how everything has led up from Jim Crow and whatnot before is running aground. And that's why there's a stagnation within our system to let new, fresh blood in, because then they know once change happens, the old arguments of the past will fade away. and it must fade away in order for this young generation to propel America into this new generation. But the old arguments of the past must uh, be talked out, and we must not live in fear about each other anymore. There's no reason to. I mean, I think this generation right now, this generation experienced more than any other generation in American history, and it's our responsibility to keep the educational standards about our past in the conversation. We must bring different parties on board to hear out their arguments and their fears and their beliefs, and vice versa. They have to do us the same way. But name calling, fighting, and all that, that's what drives us apart. And I believe with fresh new blood in there, especially with me, um, we can really have a real conversation about what's keeping us apart and finally heal this nation and save our democracy. That's what it's going to take: a new leadership, a new face, and somebody's bold and brave and don't really care about
And another
feelings of the
thing
past.
that a lot of states have been experiencing is mass incarceration, um, which a lot of us feel is just another form of slavery, and just another way for the prison system to make money. Where if individuals do the research, they'll understand that the prison system used to be $1 million industry, and now it's $1 trillion industry,
Oh yeah,
and it's all off the backs of mostly the immigrants. Because if you look at the population of prisons, they're overrunning with male blacks and male Hispanics, and
yeah,
that's in the majority of the states. And that's just a pattern that I've noticed. Currently working with about 60 inmates in the Texas judicial system, TDCJ, and that is the current that is a pattern. Also, there's a pattern of corruption, and it can be traced back 3 to 4 decades. It's not something that just started happening. It's something that's been going on for decades, and it needs to be addressed. What will be your stand on a lot of the political corruption that is taking place and being overlooked by the nepotism that takes place in this country also much? You look at a lot, and I mean, this is just what I have observed, and this does not reflect the opinions of the station. These are my opinions. These are my thoughts. These are the things, my perspective. But what I have observed, what I have noticed is that a lot of these people get in power, and then they start getting their nephews, their son-in-laws, their daughter-in-laws, and all these different other people that's kin to them into office. And then it's like they just stay in office, and then they control what goes on in the government. And then it's all about them fattening their pockets, because if you trace the money, we can definitely see where the money's going.
right.
But it's just like so much get overlooked, and they get slapped on the wrist. You talk about the current attorney general in the state of Texas. This man was proven to have had a side piece, a wife on his wife, and she came into, they brought her to the state capitol. She was walking around, prancing around upstairs, did not go inside of the actual dome thing, whatever, where they was at. But she was up in the building, and they said they was not letting her go in because the wife sit on the Senate floor.
Mm.
Yeah, the wife is a part of the Senate. So she was on the Senate floor. So she was sitting there listening to all this, didn't know, sitting there dumbfounded, but black and white. They got receipts proving that this man set up fake accounts for Uber. He was Ubering to his mistress. He was doing all kind of stuff that was traced back to him, yet this man was acquitted. He was acquitted and slapped on the wrist on Friday, and on Sunday he went back to work. But yet you have people that they have locked up, incarcerated, that are innocent, and these people have now proven themselves to be innocent, but now they got to go through hoops and loops and stuff to get out. When you've been had these people incarcerated for 15, 20, 30, 40 years. Yes, 40 years for something that they didn't do. The law party. You talk about, can you make sense? Can you please explain to me, how can you give a 15-year-old a capital murder life sentence for being in a car and not even knowing what's going on? But I understand the law party or whatever, but you give a child, 15-year-old, capital life murder, but the person that commit the murder, you give them life and they're eligible for parole in what, 20, 40 years, and they can go home. But this child that didn't even know what they uncle or their boyfriend or their cousin or whoever was going to do, they were sitting in the car, didn't even know what they was going to do. You give them a capital life murder sentence and they got to serve 40 years to the dough before they can go home. It makes no sense. I don't understand that. And then we talk about these juvenile cases. We talk about these juvenile cases. You got 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Before you turn 21, it's been proven that the frontal cortex is not fully developed and that you're not mature enough to understand and conceptualize and rationalize what is going on. So it's been proven that no, you are not an adult, but yet they still sentencing our babies like adults. They taking them from the courthouse to these adult facilities, and these kids are having to grow up. And if they're not growing up, they're getting molested, they're getting raped, they're getting whatever done to them that is just totally unacceptable. But this is what is happening in a lot of these states. Texas is one of them. Texas is one of the states that lead the country in exoneration, execution, and recidivism. And it makes no sense. It makes no sense. The governor, it does nothing. He puts all these tough acts. Big Texas don't come to Texas and get in trouble. That's their thing.
Right.
But they don't believe in rehab. They put these guys in prison, these women in prison, and you talk about their conditions that they're living in. Like I say, I work with inmates. I'm working with 60 right now. 8 of them are females, and they tell me about their living conditions. Right now, these prisons are overrunning in the state of Texas. These people are sleeping on the floor. You got people in the medical unit. That's in the medical unit. That means that these people have ailments. Something is going on with their body, but you have them sleeping on the floor inside of the day room. I get reports every single day about what is happening, what how they're feeding them. And yesterday over in the Connolly unit, they said that they was fed food with maggots, and the food was fed by the warden. And if you go back, you can go back and look at the video because they got video. But we write people, we complain. We've complained to the ombudsman. We've complained to just different people. And it's not just in the state of Texas because we work with different inmates. We're working with inmates in Virginia. We're working with inmates out of Colorado. We're working with inmates in different places. And it's just a pattern that is going on within the judicial system. For the life of right now, I don't understand why Texas would be sending prisoners to Mississippi instead of letting these people go home. Why would you be sending money out of the state when you can be letting these people go home and they can be back into society and helping pay for their own stuff? Why should we be housing people that can be, because the state of Texas is making trillions of dollars off of what this prison system is set up on. You talk
Right.
about their tag system, and they make all of the tags for the state of Texas. There's none else in the state of Texas that has the machine to make the tags for the cars. But yet the people that make the prisoners that make the tags, they don't get paid. They do it for free. Like
Right.
literally, I did not know that these people could. These people can leave prison, get out on the highways, and drive trucks to make deliveries. Did you know that?
Who does that?
Yes.
Who does that?
In the state of Texas, they have, you get your CDLs
Yeah.
and you get no pay. You get no pay. But you can drive and make deliveries to wherever they
So
make
you
the
meant prisoners? They let prisoners go get the CDLs, drive, don't get paid, then they got to go after they're done. They go back into prison.
Yes, these people get to go out and work like normal people. You got these people have regular jobs. They
I
go,
never heard
they bust them up. They go to plants and they work alongside regular people just like us.
Right.
They clock in just like us. And when they shift is over, they load back up on the bus and go back to prison. This is part of
That's a new one. I never heard that one. That's a
they doing it. They doing it, and it's not something that they just started. That's not something that they just started. These people sign. They have work details. They have to sign in and out for their work details, and nobody get paid. So why am I signing in and out for work details, and why am I clocking in and out? Somebody getting paid. Somebody getting some keep. Somebody getting something.
The business is getting free labor. Business is getting free labor off of it. So I mean,
that is another form of slavery. That's why the 13th Amendment needs to be abolished. If they abolish the 13th Amendment, well, you free servitude.
Yeah.
Who get free servitude? That's just another form of slavery. We went from slavery to prison because you didn't have prison like that. We didn't have prisons like that.
After the fact, when we became free, they figured out another way to incarcerate us and try to make money in a different way. I mean, I've heard about this when I was staying in Alabama and growing up and hearing all the stories and stuff like that. And it's true. I mean, we have to reform our prison system. When people commit crimes, to me, you have to be rehabilitated, right? To get back into society and do better. And it just seems like you get into prison, you either, you end up mentally drained or messed up.
If you wasn't a criminal, you become a criminal. And then if you were a criminal, you become a better criminal. That's what everybody in prison said. That's what everybody in prison said.
That's what the kind of setup is in some states. Because they want, and they want us to be painted as such. So we're going to reform our prison system. As president, I'm going to do the biggest pardon of non-violent drug offenders ever in history. So I don't care what color you are, but if you're in there and you're in there for like 20 years about marijuana or something like that, you're going to be getting out. If it seems like, okay, and then you mentioned about the how the jails are. I remember in Fulton County where Trump had got arraigned, where people died because of the unsanitary conditions. We're going to allocate money to all prisons to revamp them.
And that's nothing. That what was going on in Fulton County is nothing like what's going on in Alabama. There was cases in Alabama where they were starving inmates. We have like I say, I'm a part of another network, and a young lady that does the show every Sunday. She's had individuals on there, and a lot of them have come from Alabama, and they talk about how they go on food strikes because they want to feed them like their animals, and how they were starving individuals. They actually starved a individual down there with their pictures. This baby was almost dead, and they had to get so many people involved in there. Where he went in, he was about 150 something pounds, and this baby got down to 86 pounds. And I mean, so many people had to get involved in order for that prison to do right. And this was during COVID. COVID.
Yeah, but I've heard stories
and stuff floating all around social media. Yeah, it's sad.
Well, we got to reform it, and this is under Joe Biden. And I don't understand it. I just don't. They pander for our votes. They say they care about us. They give us a damn holiday, and then we still going through the same crap over and over and over again. So, I just think, like I said, we're going to make some big, huge changes here in America. You asked me a question earlier about how can we get rid of how the corrupt our elected officials are. You got to realize that their main mantra, their main person that they focus on, that they admire, is Donald Trump. And Donald Trump has been accused of sexual improprieties for all his years. He's got away with it. So they're following him and they're copying him. What can stop that is pretty much just to show who Donald Trump really is, to remove the clothes of the emperor. And only my story can do that. Now, the Democratic Party can bring up all these charges against Trump, but Trump has already got his constituents believing in a system or democracy is no longer valid. Right? So you can't win them over. You can lock him up, throw away the key, shoot him or whatever, God forbid. But he's left something in America that is not going to be easily taken away. They're going to have to be willing to give it away, to throw it off them and say, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for this, President Trump. Wait a minute. You can't just threaten me, this man with the military and then trying to cover it up. You can't do that. So I believe my story can resolve the omnipotence in so many respects of how people admire Trump, and they will look at themselves and say, okay, maybe we need to change. Maybe not all of them, some of them mostly at first, but eventually all of them will drop Trump. And also with the people that are following Trump, they will eventually go off into the wind somewhere. But I believe my story can really just show the emperor has no clothes, and he doesn't.
And I've heard you reference your story a couple of times. Would you like to share a little bit of that story so that the people can be aware of exactly what you're talking about?
Okay.
If you can.
Yeah.
I know it may be something that cannot be talked about a lot, but what you can to inform the people.
Well, right quick, as you mentioned earlier, I ran in 2020. And the reason why people never heard of me, because as soon as I announced my run on the 27th of November, 13 days later, I was contacted by the former president, Donald J. Trump, on Facebook. But it wasn't him. He wouldn't say it was him. He was pretending to be somebody else by the name of David Van Landingham with a picture of Donald Trump. And we talked on December 8th, 9th, and 10th. On December 10th, that's when Cleveland police decided to call the FBI on my behalf, because I contacted them about this guy and pretending he's a cousin of mine. And then all of a sudden he's talking about he knows exactly where I'm at, 79th and Kinsman, and he wants me dead and gone. And the police are his people. And so once that happened, after I talked to Trump, he sent the military. 3 Black Hawk military helicopters were seen here in Cleveland on December 10, 2018. Cleveland police called the FBI, made a police report. The Secret Service showed up to my house after I filed. Okay, so that happened on December 10, 2018. I was waiting on the FBI to get back in contact with me. They never did. So Donald Trump did weaponize the Justice Department against me to keep my story from coming out or from getting any kind of justice or response from the FBI. So when I contacted this, after I filed my candidacy for president on May 20th or May 19th, 2019. So that's when I called the Secret Service and say, hey, look, the FBI has been contacted. I think, Trump threatened my life. I'm still uncertain it was really him. But when you see the military helicopters and he's like knowing where you're at, it's the government. Even the police says it's government. So the Secret Service showed up, and a couple of things I'm not going to say. The first thing they said, I'm not going to mention that, but overall, they said, Mr. Landingham, we want you to do us a favor. Now, when your story gets on the news, not if, but when, we do not want you to talk about the threatening text message that President Trump sent to you or the military helicopters he sent. I said, wait a minute. Hold on. So you're telling me it was really him? And they said, well, haven't you seen the news about the president recently? And I said, wait a minute. What do you mean? And I asked him again, was it really the president? I said, haven't you seen the news about the president recently? So I looked at my cousin looked at me, I'm looking at the Secret Service officers. And it just hit me like, okay. So the day before they showed up, Donald Trump mentioned about the whistleblower about the Ukraine call should be shot. Remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I said that, they gave a nod and said it was him. So I had like, okay, this has never happened before. A president of the United States sent the military after an American citizen who decided to run for president. Now I'll get into why he came after me. But so I've been fighting for almost 5 years to get my story out. I definitely was fighting for 2020. My story's supposed to have been out in 2020. I could be president right now. But the Democratic Party knew about my story and didn't use it. They intentionally blocked my story from coming out. I don't know if Trump and Justice Department forced them through the House Ethics, Senate Ethics Committee or whatever. Something weird was going on. And so after Trump got out of there, Joe Biden became president. So I'm like, all right, maybe Joe will do the right thing. Well, cotton picking, he didn't do it. He came to Cleveland his first year as president, President Biden. I think it was in July of 2021, I believe. And he met with my Congresswoman, Marcy Kaptur, who did my second Freedom of Information Act about the investigation between me and Trump. And he showed up here and met with my Congresswoman for 4 hours. And then after that, he visited my neighborhood here, 6 streets down, to eat ice cream from my house, and didn't come. So I got letters from the White House about my story, and they came back, I'm talking about the sky's blue, and they talking about the grass is green. So we're talking about totally opposite. So I filed a $2 billion federal lawsuit against the Justice Department because of my Freedom of Information Act, which under the jurisdiction of a federal question, which that means that it seems like that if there's a cover up within our government, that the United States Supreme Court will have full power and authority to uncover it. So I filed it last year on President's Day weekend, on the 18th of February. Everything was going good. I had proof. I had proof to show that the FBI said that we never contacted them, that there was no police records. And I said, wait a minute, I have contacted them. I've recorded the FBI, put it on Facebook, and there are police records with the mentioning of Donald Trump and threatening text messages and 3 Black Hawk military helicopters. That's what the police said. I didn't see 3. I just saw 1. They said they saw 3 in flying information. So I filed it. They accepted it. But on the same day, Judge Pamela A. Barker, who was appointed to my case, decided to dismiss it. So I started to research her. Come to find out, she was handpicked to the federal bench by, guess who? Former President Donald J. Trump. Now, as you remember, the judge down in Florida who intervened on Trump's behalf about the Mar-a-Lago raid, remember that? Mm-hmm. All right, so there's a precedent. There's a precedent where, that judge can do it. Another judge who's, on the side of Trump can get involved. I mean, Trump has always been trying to, like, I gave you this job, do Donnie a favor, get me out of trouble. So after I realized who she was, so I requested her to remove herself from the case. She said no. She attacked to frame my character, saying that as a prisoner, as an inmate, I don't have the right to have my processing fee waived for the lawsuit. I mean, she had made up 14 different cases and mentioned about prisoner as an inmate. And I've never been to prison, never been an inmate. So she was the frame of my character, which she broke Rule 608. Now, I tried to get a lawyer for this. For some odd reason, I'm on some government watch list that Trump put me on, that if I call a lawyer, they do some kind of courtesy check with my name. And if there's something with my name saying they can't take me, they won't take me. So I'm sitting like, okay, I got a case. I got a case and I can't get a lawyer for it. And this got to be set up. I've talked to lawyers that were like not in the field, but they said I do have a case. So what I did was I filed it by myself. And so after I filed it, then I realized who the judge was. So right now, I'm in the appeals court in Cincinnati, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, to remove Judge Pamela A. Barker for bias against my bias against my case, the frame of my character, and the defamation. and the threats to our national security when it comes to Donald Trump's threats upon my life. So therefore, all in a nutshell is right now it's pending. You got three judges looking at this case. Could be three Democrats, three Republicans. I don't know. And I turned it in July, so I waited for a response in October. They just now started looking at this, I think, a week before Halloween. So right now, I'm just waiting for the judges to look at the case, to appeal my decision, to remove the judge and get a new judge so we can finally go to trial about this case. So all in a nutshell is President Donald J. Trump, when he was president, sent the military to try to have me assassinated as a presidential candidate for these United States of America. And now President Joe Biden has decided, because he wants to become president, that he wants to keep my story from coming out as well. So we are in real huge trouble, America. Our democracy is faltering more quickly than we can ever possibly imagine because we still are not seeing the exact threats that's in front of us. Trump and now President Biden. Now, I'm not saying President Biden had anything to do with a threat to my life or he wants me dead. He just don't want my story to get out because he knows doggone well he won't be president. That's as simple as that. And now, if that's not the case, then why for almost 5 years my story has not been out under two presidents? I mean, they tell lies every dang day. Every day they tell lies. You see it on the news. They fool us, make us go kill people and whatever. But for some odd reason, after putting up a $2 billion lawsuit, my story is still not on the news yet because President Biden's Justice Department told the news organizations not to run my story, just like President Biden's Justice Department told the news not to run the story about the secret documents he had before the midterms of 2022. So that's really pretty much what's going on, and I'm not giving up without a fight.
Wow. So before we close, it's that time, and we must close this show. But before we close, what would you like to tell those that are tuned in live and those that will hear this replay, how they can support your campaign and why they should support your campaign?
Well, again, Angela, I appreciate you allowing me to be on the show. I was getting a little sweaty right there talking about it because that's just a tragedy what I went through. But I'm mostly worried about America. Mainly, what I need is people to share my story like wildfire. Landinghamcase.com. It's like landing a plane, going ham, case.com. Is where you'll see the text message between me and Trump on December 8th, 9th, and 10th. You read it for yourself. He tells it himself at least 4 times. If you share the story, and my case, Landingham versus Department of Justice, Google that, it'll give you the whole rundown about the case. If you share it, that will be more powerful than any display of money coming towards me than anything. But education is the key. We need to educate and let the American people know what really happened during the 2020 election. That we got to make sure that we must not allow what happened in 2020 to allow to happen again in 2024. And that I believe that my story can reawaken the American spirit, can bring us all together, get rid of the corruption within our government. And hopefully the world can see that and realize that America has turned a corner and America is ready to lead again. And I believe Landingham for president, the people's candidate for the people's justice, will deliver on that promise.
Well, I want to thank you for stopping by and sharing with us on tonight. Again, I tell you, I have definitely been enlightened on some stuff. So definitely thank you for stopping by and giving us some insight. To the listeners, thank you for supporting us. Like he said, the money is not needed at this time. What he needs you to do is to share that content. Share that content across your platform. That's the thing that you can do to support him on this journey is to share the content. So I'm going to go and look for that link. I'm going to be sharing it. I'm going to be posting it. So y'all be looking for it. Again, I want to thank you guys for tuning in to the Queen of Collaboration right here on the Crew Podcast. We are the change that we desire to see in this world. I tell you, we have a great line up this month. I am the visionary of the Crew Podcast, and I have the opportunity to interview some amazing visionaries just like this gentleman here on tonight. We have 12 more that's lined up. So I want you guys to make sure that you stay tuned, tune in. Someone is here every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, I want to thank you guys for hanging with me tonight. I know it's a late night, but guess what? When I say I'm going to do something, I have to do it. Even though I was traveling on today, I told Mr. Landon Ham that I was going to share his story, and I had to be faithful for just that. If you be faithful over the little things, God will bless you, Monty. Y'all
Amen.
be blessed. Know that the Queen loves you, and y'all have a great rest of your weekend. And I will see y'all back here on Monday. I have another amazing young lady that's going to be stopping by on Monday. I tell you, she's like my mother, and that is my mother's birthday, y'all. So I tell you that
Happy
show is going
birthday.
to be
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Early birthday.
Yes, thank you. Well, you have a good night, and thank you again. And definitely, we're going to be cheering for you, so praying for you, and sharing you. Hopefully, we'll see you at the White House, and we'll see you at the inauguration. See you standing on those steps, and we'll be cheering you on. Good luck, Mr. Michael, and thank you for stopping by.
Thank you, Angela.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night. Mm-hmm.
1 2 1 2. Here we go.